Hi, this is Jessica from Seska Says, and you're listening to the Discussing Network.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Discussing Who. I am Kyle Jones, and joining me always on this podcast this week, I'm going to start with none other than Clarence Brown. Mr. Brown, how are you?
Doing well, man. I am doing well. Can't say that I'm ready to talk about this episode, but it should be interesting. As long as I'm talking amongst friends, I guess we'll have some fun.
Indeed. And before I reveal what episode this is, because chances are if you're listening to it, you've already either subscribed and saw the title, or, well, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, Time and the Rani, before I say Lee Shackelford. How are you?
Wow. I never thought I would hear my name in such close juxtaposition to Time and the Rani.
Why don't I,
I'm
insert
not sure I like
some silence in there, like some crickets, before we actually have you talking? How about that?
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I'm hunkered down like everybody else. Is that a regional term? I had one of my students ask me what I meant by hunkered down. He wasn't familiar with the word, and we're all from the deep South. You say hunkered down in Mississippi, right? No?
Certainly.
Maybe.
Wait,
I've heard it.
You don't think so, Cal?
I think that's new to you.
I've heard it. No. I've heard it. I'm trying to think if I've ever said it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just, to me, that's what you do during a tornado. Everybody's hunkered down. Anyway.
So the question then becomes, real quick, speaking of tornadoes, I know being in the South,
yeah.
We had tornadoes here in Mississippi, but I think it came into the Carolinas after it left Mississippi, Alabama areas into Georgia.
Right.
So did you fare okay?
We're fine. Yeah, it had worn itself out by the time it got to us. And my mom, who famously was in her house when it was destroyed by a tornado, and she lived to tell the tale. She has never, she has quite a sleepless night, like the other night. So, but she's fine too.
Well, Clarence, I believe Carrie informed me that your family was A-OK from the area they're in. Is that correct?
Yeah. We were blessed to come through everything fine. Just fine, man.
It's been such a week. I mean, Krakatoa is erupting again. Did you know that?
Really?
And
I didn't know.
Yeah. And there's been a giant forest fire around Chernobyl. So that's not just your typical plume, smoke plume coming up from a giant forest fire. That's radioactive smoke going up. But so So for people who are starting to talk about this seeming like the end times, who knows?
And maybe who does know? Because, let me say this real quick. There was an episode, and I think it was in the series 8, I believe. It was right there before the 2-part finale, if I'm not mistaken, where the green took over the planet, restored something that the vegetation did in one of the episodes of the 12th Doctor. I'm just saying. Maybe the planet is correcting itself or something. So, gentlemen, thanks. Glad you're back, and glad we're back. Glad we're all three together. Looking forward to this. So, for everyone listening, we are, as I said before, reviewing Time and the Rani. But I do have 2 things in the news. The first of which were 2 shorts that were written by Stephen Moffat. One was called Rory's Story, and it was told by Caitlin Blackwood, playing Amy as a child once again. And Lee, you had not seen that story yet, so you want to kind of fill the blanks in of that story?
Well, they're such sweet little things for fans of Amy and Rory and who are up to date on where we left those characters. So it follows logically on from that. So if you don't know sort of how we parted with Amy and Rory, it probably wouldn't make any sense. Well, no, the Rory one won't. The one that Caitlin Blackwood recorded, it really is about, well, I don't know, there's some spoilers in there too, now that I think about it. So yeah, it's certainly for people who've seen all of the Amy and Rory episodes of Doctor Who, but yeah. I wouldn't want to say more about them.
I know, and I think you did a brilliant, and let me say one more time, brilliant, non-spoilery way, no pun intended, of telling that story.
But Arthur Darvill, and very briefly, the voice, at least, of Karen Gillan, and Caitlin Blackwood, who was the young Amelia Pond, and she's all grown up now because that was a good long time ago. But her voice is still instantly recognizable as Amelia, so it all works. It's brilliant.
Very much brilliant.
Yeah, I was just going to add that I think my only question is, and I don't think this is too spoilery, how do you power the only cell phone?
I'm afraid that I wondered that too. He's got a friend who works in radio who's told him how to step down a DC current so that it doesn't just pop that phone wide open. Yeah.
I actually have a very logical explanation for that. So we know that there is something in story for Amy and Rory. And again, not going to spoil that. I will say that whatever that in story element might have been, there could have been a visitor that was being written about that could have brought smartphones to this particular character. So I'll leave it at that. And all right, Lee, you had one other piece of news that is related directly in many ways to the story that we are reviewing tonight. So this has to do with, I believe, were the Bakers, and I'm not talking Tom or Colin, but were the Bakers the writers, or were they the producers, or what were they in association?
They wrote several episodes of Doctor Who, a rare combination, Pip and Jane. They were a husband and wife team who wrote for television, and they wrote for a lot of different things. A lot of them sort of B-movie kind of monster horror one-off kind of things. So, not what we think of as a prestigious career, but I respect anybody who writes and can keep making a living at it, which they did. But yeah, one of the things that they wrote was Time in the Rani, which of all things is what we're going to talk about tonight. And I say of all things because Pip apparently passed away as we're recording this today. It was either today or yesterday. So rest in peace, sir. Jane passed in 2004, if memory serves. So he's been with that as partner for a while now. So I don't know. Maybe they're back together and they're writing something already.
Who knows? But
who knows?
But like you said, you spent all of those years collaborating together, and I think that's kind of special.
It really is. Creative teams like that, husband and wife teams, that really is. It's very unusual.
Well, kudos to him.
At 91 years old, I'm reading an article here. He actually created the Rani.
That's right. This is his lasting contribution to Doctor Who. Yeah, is that he wrote Mark of the Rani and Time of the Rani. So, or they did, I should say. So, yeah. So
as
we
well
are
as Mel.
and Mel. Yeah, say what you will. So, and I know we will. So, yeah.
I would rather not, but I know we have to.
But for better or for worse, somebody, Kyle, forced us to talk about Time in the Rani this time, and it apparently has killed Pip Baker. So that's
well, no, I'm going to blame it on. You know what? I'm going to blame it on whoever. And I'll blame it on myself if I was the one that said, let's do Caves of Androzani, because I only chose this because it rhymed with Androzani.
Well, and now we have sort of the Rani bookends as well. But I will say this is an interesting thing. We're talking about sort of marking people's anniversaries and passings. This week, it was also Peter Davison's birthday, just about the time that you released our episode of Caves of Androzani. And then I think today is Peter Capaldi's birthday.
Indeed it is.
Yeah, and then exit Pip Baker. So there you go. A big week for Doctor Who landmarks.
Indeed.
Anyway.
Well, before we move on, and let me throw this one last piece of Caves of Androzani. Clarence, I actually thought about you while I was doing the editing, because I've been throwing in different tags at the beginning of our episodes, and I've had Olivia from Oz 9, I've had Nadia from Relativity, and thankfully we have Peter Davison doing, you're listening to Discussing Who, and I was like, well, it would be appropriate to put it at the beginnings of Caves of Androzani. And how do you fit into that? Well, I'm whenever I'm putting that in, I actually replayed the whole scene of myself going up and not being able to really talk and you having to tell me what it was that I said back and forth, because I still don't remember what I said to the man.
Oh man, everybody gets a little nervous around a doctor.
That is true. That is true. But you know what I don't get nervous around? I don't get nervous around when I am able to say, if you have not seen Time of the Rani or Time and the Rani, put us on pause, either one of them. If you have not seen one that doesn't exist or one that does, put us on pause. Go out, watch the episode, come back, because from this moment forward, spoilers.
Spoilers. Spoilers. Spoilers. Spoilers.
Alrighty, the spoiler warning has gone out and we are back to review Time and the Rani. This was the first story of the 24th season of Doctor Who. It aired in 4 parts between the 7th and the 28th of September, 1987, and it features Sylvester McCoy's first appearance as the 7th Doctor. And I can't wait to say this, Clarence Brown, what say ye? Some review. What did you think of this story?
Yep, that answers the question, right?
Silence will fall. Hello, people.
I don't know about this episode. I dare say it may be one of my least favorite episodes of Doctor Who, period.
And this is a man who's watched the 2 Doctors.
yeah, that's true. I don't know. It just throws you in there, which I think is interesting because you kind of have to get your bearings. And I just don't think a lot went on in these episodes. Yeah, I just don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I didn't enjoy it, just to be blunt. Like all of these multi-episode arcs, there's always one that you can throw away, seemingly, and I think that was the third one for me. I think it started very interestingly. I love Rani doing her thing as far as the costume, portraying Mill. I thought that was interesting. But other than that, I just really did not like the episode, man. I really did. What about you guys?
Well, I was reluctant to do it and to talk about it in the first place because I remembered that I don't care for this one very much at all. But I enjoyed watching it this time around more than I expected to because I had really forgotten that this is Sylvester McCoy sort of trying on the Doctor's skin, and some of that is a lot of fun. There's a tone shift, definitely, that sometimes he's just plain silly. I don't know. I enjoyed that for what it is. But yeah, for the most part, it's another one of these stories where we're plunked down into a situation very quickly and we don't know who's who. So it's very hard for us to figure out whose side we're on. And, okay, there's the Rani. Well, we're probably not on her side, but what's she up to? It does kind of meander for 4 episodes. And so, meh.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say that I didn't really enjoy this one either. There are elements that I did enjoy. I'm going to echo what you said, Lee. There were elements that I enjoyed, particularly the aliens. I found them more enjoyable than some other aspects. I actually enjoyed the Rani. I thought she did an excellent job. There's one thing that I particularly can't stand about the story, but what I take away from this more so is the discussion that I hope we have about the transition from Doctor to Doctor. As far as the story goes, I'm going to go meh more so than anything else. I will say this about the Bakers. I know they wrote this particular story. I will say that from my research that I did today, I don't believe that they knew who would be portraying the Doctor when they wrote it. So if it sounds a little like not fitting. They just knew it was a new Doctor. They didn't know it was going to be actor A, B, C, or D.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. Yeah. And it feels rather disappointing because I enjoyed The Mark of the Rani. I enjoyed that series. And if it's the same writers writing this one, I just feel like they totally missed the mark. No pun intended.
Yeah.
So let's get into the first episode. And I want to particularly get into the beginning, literally the beginning of the episode, because this is a pre-sequence episode.
Yeah, it's a teaser. Yeah.
It's a teaser. We don't get those often in Classic Who. So we see, and I think this teaser was written in, and keep me honest here, Lee, but my understanding is Colin Baker was asked to return. Colin Baker, in response, said, I would like to return for a final season and be written out. And the BBC never returned his call. If that's my understanding is correct, that he wanted to do a complete series and say, okay, this will be my last one and be gone. But they only wanted him to either do one story or even just a scene.
Right. Yeah, they literally asked him to get hit on the head and fall on the floor. And he had been criticized for this over the years. But, looking back on it now, I'm really with Colin on this, that he basically told them all to go climb a tree. Because he was basically being fired. The only time this has happened to an actor playing the Doctor since William Hartnell, it wasn't because the actor left. They just decided that the Sixth Doctor thing wasn't working. I don't know what other kind of, behind the camera things were going on, but they just decided, we need another Doctor. We're going to move on, and we want you to shoot this scene where you fall down and turn into Sylvester McCoy. And he just said, no, let me finish out this particular season, for heaven's sake. And, we'll make that the big end of the season. But don't just push me down and, take my costume away in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, you had your chance. Bye.
So, Clarence, what, you go into this story knowing really nothing about the story, and you see this start off with a regeneration. What was your thoughts going into and seeing that?
I felt very cheated. We're so used to the buildup of a Doctor leaving, and I even asked you guys when my first 5 minutes of watching this series, I started typing, jumped in our Slack. Did I miss an episode?
Yeah.
Should I go back and watch something?
Right. Yeah, and I said, it won't help.
Because you actually, and then you went further to say, I'm confused. And Lee, you said something like, and so were 6 million.
6 million other, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody who was watching this at the time was going, wait, what? And I know I am so often the person saying that we have to judge the way a television show or anything looks from our point of view. You have to judge it on what was available to anybody at the time. I'm always sticking up for the special effects and lighting and costume design of the original Star Trek, for example. And I just want to grab people sometimes and say, it was 1966. Do you understand? But man, this whole thing of the TARDIS being shot down and it's landing on Lacertia is just appalling. It's so bad that you really want to say, was there not a point? Surely there was a point in production where everybody looked at this in the editing suite and said, "We going to go with this?" And somebody said, "Yeah, looks great." I mean, because Doctor Who, of course, Classic Who famously has lots of moments like this. Like in the third and fourth Doctor's time, there's the not stop motion dinosaurs in the dinosaur one, and that are pretty embarrassing, and then the kind of G.I. Joe tank and robot and that kind of stuff. It's just like, oh, ouch. Oh dear. So you just have to kind of look away from the screen.
You wouldn't happen to be talking about that third Doctor dinosaur that was like peeping around the side of a building, would you?
Yeah.
I love that.
It's you understand that this is not what they wanted, but it's what they're going to have to settle.
So tell me
the same thing's happened here.
So tell me what you guys think of, not only do they get a new Doctor, they get a new logo, a new opening sequence, and so much so of a new opening sequence that this is the only one other than the 1996 movie that uses what they call the middle eighth as the intro. So Clarence, when you see this new, you're not hearing the boom, 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 boom music, what did you think?
The music certainly felt off. Did not like it at all. And I'm usually the person who says, the music doesn't matter that much to me. It felt very, very off. And for that matter, I understand it's the late 80s by the time we're getting this?
87.
87. And of course, there's a higher prevalence of computer generated things. I hated the use of the computer generated effects on the intro. And, it may have been top of the line when it came out in 87, but it's my least favorite Doctor Who intro.
Yeah.
What about the logo?
Yeah. It just felt very 80s, neon,
right?
Very 80s. Yeah.
I was in graduate school in the mid 80s, and and that's where I met my lifelong pal David Duncan, who was a graphic artist even back then, and he used to joke about how other graphic artists in the 80s were saying, well, let's just spin the wheel o graphic arts, okay, this logo is going to be on a grid, and it's going to be Dusty Rose. And there's going to be drop shadows under the letters. He said, he's right. Everything looked the same. Everything looked like that. The art department at the BBC has been tasked since 1963 with trying to figure out how to make the words Doctor Who into something interesting and exciting. And it amazes me that it took us all the way up until the time of the Matt Smith era to just make it DW and to frame it so that it looks like the two sides of the TARDIS. I just think that's inspired. And I will always love the Fourth Doctor's diamond logo, but I know that a lot of that is just nostalgia. But I just think that it is visually very interesting. But it is also, to me, that's still my Doctor. That diamond logo thing. But some of the others I can take or leave. But the Sylvester McCoy era logo with the big chunks that I guess are supposed to be asteroids or popcorn or something, I don't know what that is. Or gallstones. I don't know. No. It's just awful. It's just.
But I will say I do like the middle eighth. I just don't like it as the intro.
Right.
And I don't like it. They use something called a Prophet 5 synthesizer, and that was what the music was played on, and it does not age well.
No, and I admire so much the way the original theme was made, and even when it was remade, it was still pieced together in the extraordinary way that Delia Derbyshire made the performance of this out of all these other found and altered sounds. So then to now sit down at a keyboard and just play it, to me feels like I've just always felt like this is the point at which we started cheating, and that's just, affection and praise for Delia Derbyshire and the original theme. But this just everything about this seems wrong to me. And I'm glad you mentioned the year, because I'd like to mention for Star Trek fans out there that one of the first big cinema uses of a computer-generated graphic was in The Wrath of Khan, and that was 5 years before this. So the whole Project Genesis video when this is Genesis. That's all generated. That was we should never say computer generated. It's computer art. It was a beautiful thing that was made by artists in a computer. Yeah, that was 5 years before this. The opening titles for Doctor Who here, which look like they are in a video game. They look like something from Galaga, and Wrath of Khan had already shown us what was possible years before. So
And I don't want to be too harsh on we mentioned of the synth used for the music and stuff. Everything in the 80s sounds the same for a reason.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah, but yeah, like you guys mentioned, it just does not age well. Just does not.
And you know what? I'll take it one step further. And for any of our Discussing Trek fans that are listening to this will probably most likely agree with me here, which is about the same time, if not the exact same time in 87 when this was coming out, there was this very beautiful and very realistic and one that has aged very well opening sequence of Star Trek The Next Generation.
That was practical, though.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was filming a miniature, but stars and planets,
it's true.
I know that some elements of that were manipulated in a computer, but you're right. That's a miniature they were filming,
and still the music too.
Yeah.
So.
And I know, I was around Next Generation enough to know the just the sheer truckload of money that was being undumped every week on that show, and it's just the BBC doing this show that they still think is a kid's show for tea time. It's just you could have done this whole season for what you did one episode of Next Generation on, and so I know they're being shortchanged on the what they had to work with.
Yeah. And I will add to that this is the season of the great Doctor Who villain that was trying his very best to creatively axe the series, Michael Grade, like I said, the great evil of Doctor Who, as I like to call him. Oh, hey, my computer wanted me to know, I mean, not my computer, my phone wanted me to know about Michael Grade. Kudos to my phone.
Yeah. Our phones are smart. We when the three of us were talking about this the other day, I dictated something into my Slack app on my phone, and I said something about time in the Rani, and it capitalized time and spelled Rani correctly and capitalized the R. I said, well, alrighty. I did not see that coming.
Well, I want to know what you guys thought, because this is one thing that I've always found interesting. We do see in the first episode of this serial, when, we had talked about this being a new intro and everything, we do see a new intro of a new doctor. So what did you guys think about seeing the doctor try out his different outfit, wardrobe, costumes, whatever you want to call it, and choose one? And Clarence, why don't you take this first?
I don't know if there's a lot to say about it, other than I think it was cool that the Rani was there to actually watch him and semi-critique what he was putting on. So that was very enjoyable. And just like the regeneration with the Rani being around in general, I love that she was there, and we might get into it a little later, but I love that she was there to kind of fool him in a sense and push him in the wrong direction. I thought all that was fun, actually. Maybe the best part of the episode to me. But as far as her in the wardrobe, I really like that. I thought that was pretty cool. And, the graduation hat, he tried a few things that I thought were pretty funny. So, yeah, I enjoyed that. And ultimately, I don't know if I like what he chose, but hey.
That's right. Or what John Nathan Turner chose for him.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, Lee, what say ye?
Well, those of us who are Fourth Doctor fans get the shout out here, because this is more or less exactly the way the Fourth Doctor chooses his outfit, is that he keeps going in and out of the TARDIS like it's a dressing room, and each outfit is more ridiculous than the last. And then finally he comes out with the 14-foot long scarf and the hat, and he's this kind of bohemian, whatever that the heck it is. And the Brigadier, just fed up at this point, says, yes, let's fine. Let's
go.
So then we get this doctor who comes out wearing the second Doctor's fur coat from the Yetis, and then he reveals that he's got something else on that is, for the first time, something that he can actually wear. So the Rani says, yes, good, that's perfect. So But yeah, we do sort of shout outs there because he's wearing something kind of like the Fourth Doctor's, and then something kind of like the Third, and then he's wearing what looks like the Fifth Doctor's outfit,
Right.
except with his cricket pads on. And
Yep. That Fourth Doctor rendition was what I call the John Nathan Turner version, because in Tom Baker's last series, he wore, a different scarf and the purplish, reddish thing that he was wearing. So I thought that was cool. And I like what Clarence said. I liked having the Rani there as the character that is, watching and being with the Doctor there.
And he's obviously trying her patience, but if she's pretending to be Mel, she can't let on. So this episode does give you a moment where Sylvester McCoy is wearing Colin Baker's costume and Kate O'Mara is wearing Bonnie Langford's costume. As they're standing there talking, it's sort of like, wow, we just decided to recast the show, didn't we? But so
didn't catch the intro.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I want to throw it out to you guys. Which new or regenerated Doctor costume reveal is your favorite?
Ooh,
and which is your worst?
Ooh, that's a very good question.
That's an excellent question.
And several times he's stolen his clothes, which I always think is interesting.
Yeah, that's actually a very good question, Clarence.
Is
I'm having trouble, Lee.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess I'm going to have to go back to the Fourth Doctor in Robot, just because. But that is probably just nostalgia and sentiment. But it's a funny sequence, and then he ends up with something that is that at least looks like he can walk around town in, But it's still weird,
So what I find weird about the answer to my question is the answer to my question coincides with my two favorite Doctors, which is the Fourth Doctor and the 10th Doctor.
Yeah.
So what about you? Let's throw that question back on you.
Oh, man, I don't know about worst, but my favorite has to be Matt Smith's by far. That's because of the zaniness of it.
Yeah. And finally somebody calls him out on it. He says, those aren't your clothes. And he says, I just saved the world. They can bill me.
Yes.
All right.
So let's go and let's talk just for a moment about the impersonation that the Rani was doing. She uses so the Doctor, wakes up and they're always disoriented at the beginning. And I want to ask Clarence what you, and I want to know from both of you, but considering the fact that we've just come off of two different classic predecessors to this particular Doctor, how would you characterize this Doctor as in contrast to these two previous ones? How would you describe him?
I'm still not sure I know who he is. He seems a little, hapless is the wrong word, nonchalant in a way. He has these quotes that he never really know how to finish. So I think that's zany. I'm like, was that carried over? Did they introduce it here? I don't know. I think so much of this story is him trying to find himself amongst being shot up with this amnesia gun. And so I'm really not sure who we saw in this episode. Is he going to be a lot different by the next time things roll around? I don't know. I'm really unsure, to be completely honest.
All right, Lee, what say you?
Yeah, I think that's fair. That is this really the Seventh Doctor yet, or is it just who he is post regeneration plus amnesia drugs? Yeah, but we do get sort of his playfulness and his. I think if he were an ordinary human, we would wonder if he has failed to take his ADHD meds.
Yeah. Huh.
So I saw him, and this is one reason, and Nicole, forgive me for what I'm about to say, but this is one reason I've never connected as much with the Seventh Doctor as any of the other original classic Doctors. I did not like the almost borderline slapstickness of it. Specifically, one of the things that really kind of grated on me that he did was when, like, they were running and he was going to run around a corner. It was this little kind of skip jump or something sideways.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was a little too slapstick for me.
Almost Three Stooges like.
Yes,
in a way.
exactly. That I was trying to put my finger on it. You just did it exactly. Yeah. Three Stooges, and I love this Three Stooges.
Right, and they are. I was just talking with somebody about this the other day. The word clown is really misused and misunderstood, and so I'm always on this campaign for people to know what a clown is. If I say clown and you got a mental picture, what you're thinking of is a circus clown. But clowning is much broader than that, much older than that, and really just means using any aspect of your body of nonverbal storytelling to get a laugh, to be humorous. And so there are a lot of performers who are terrific clowns without ever putting, a white face, and painting a smile on their face.
Lucille Ball.
Yes, exactly. Lucy was a fantastic clown. And Carol Burnett.
Yes.
I was just admiring some of her clowning the other day. And yeah, the list goes on and on. Harpo Marx, my absolute hero in this way. Well, this is what Sylvester McCoy is known for. He's known as a clown. He also, by this time in his career, he's also done some remarkable dramatic turns as well. I was already a fan of his thanks to my interest in the golden age of Antarctic exploration, because he was in the big miniseries about the Scott expedition, the ill-fated Scott expedition to the South Pole, film series called The Last Place on Earth. And Sylvester McCoy is one of the men in the expedition. It's not funny. It is not funny, and he's terrific. But now, in the Hobbit films, we would see him as Radagast, who is a comic relief character, right? Yeah. With the bird poo in his hair, and things like it's just so. So yeah, he had to have been conscious of the fact that his reputation as a clown is one of the reasons he's been hired. So he's gonna play some of this very broad and very silly, which is obviously very different from Colin Baker. I mean, Mel says you're like a completely different person. Yes, he is. But as his time goes by, and there's so much chaos, behind the scenes at the show. I mean, with Grade trying to kill the show. And the showrunner making some chancy choices and so on, there isn't a strong hand on the tiller anywhere, and so Sylvester McCoy is kind of all over the place, but his doctor does settle down. He does. Yeah, I was texting Kyle earlier this week. I was saying, we've kind of played a mean trick on Clarence here, because we know how much he loves Perry, and he's been looking forward to Ace, but we skipped. Yeah. I mean, we didn't skip. We got the companion in between those two. We've got Mel. We're giving him Mel instead of Ace. That's not me.
But is this Mel's first episode?
No. Mel was a companion of the Sixth Doctor. Yeah, she takes over from Perry under very weird circumstances that are we could do a whole show about that. But yeah, she'll eventually have her own strange departure, and then we'll meet Ace, and we'll be with Ace to the end of the classic series.
So maybe what we're really, really doing is showing an appreciation for Ace and showing an appreciation for Perry by showing Mel.
Right. Who I cannot abide. It's one of the reasons why I don't watch these episodes at this time before, because no matter how interesting Colin Baker or Sylvester McCoy or anything else going on are, Mel just makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Yeah.
So Clarence, what was your impression of Mel?
Well, there's some things I liked about her. I like that she's a computer programmer. I think that's what was said in the episode.
There you go. Yep.
So, hey, she had me there.
Yeah. Can't be all bad, can't you?
A very interesting selection of clothing. Seems very 80s to me. So, it's cool. Other than that, I don't know if I got a real sense of who she is. Of course, new doctor, she's trying to figure him out. So I don't know if I got a real sense of who she is other than being, she was investigative like most other companions. I know you guys have one huge gripe with her, which I'm sure we'll get into.
She hurt my ears.
But they probably told her, scream. This is in your script. I don't know. She's definitely not my favorite of the companions, and maybe at the bottom of the list so far. But I can't quite put my finger on it. But I don't think I have enough knowledge of her to give a true assessment, quite honestly. But you guys, the Whostorians, what do you think?
Well, yeah, we both have the same problem with Bonnie Langford's voice, and it's interesting because she is an accomplished. I mean, that's accomplished is an understatement. She is a widely recognized and acclaimed singer. I think that what she's doing on the West End right now, or last I heard anyway, was she's playing the Lady in the Lake in Spamalot. And that is an extremely difficult role to sing. So when I read that, I thought, wow, Bonnie, you go, girl. If you're so more power to her. But her speaking voice just gets on my nerves. And yeah, it is always the companion's job to scream. They're always getting caught up by monsters or something, and they scream for the doctor. And that's been true since 1963. But okay. It is. It's like a dog whistle. You think that her voice would go beyond the range of my ears to hear, but
look, I'm hearing impaired, and I can hear her. and
if she hurt your ears,
yes. And so let me say this. You know how last episode we were talking about the producer or the director that misread the scene and said, "Look into and break the fourth wall," and they said, "Go with it." Yeah. So somebody saw the word scream and told her you need to screech.
Exactly. Yeah. If you don't understand the difference between screech and scream, yeah, Perry had to scream sometimes. It didn't hurt my head.
I don't know, and I don't mean this in any way disrespectful to her as an actress. I want to say that the direction that she was given, because you're giving her accolades that are of things that are hard to do, I'm going to chalk this up to she was given bad direction, or it was bad casting, and she was put in a role that was not made for her.
Yeah.
But I think the result is that she's one of the reasons I don't like the Seventh Doctor was because I can't deal with her.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, once you get past her, then you can get on to Ace. Yeah. During her time with the Sixth Doctor, I would say that the scripts are part of the problem, because what I didn't like about Mel, and this is not about Bonnie Langford, but that they made her a scold. They made her the Doctor's harshest critic. And so she's always after him to change. That she's got a long list of things about him that she doesn't think are good, and so she's out to fix him. Yeah, it's unpleasant. It's an interesting idea, but it just makes you dislike her. I think it makes most people just dislike her. And she particularly thinks the Doctor needs to lose weight. So she's got him on an exercise bike. And you may have seen it that in this story, the bike is still there in the TARDIS control room. But yeah, so Colin Baker was always huffing and puffing on the exercise bike, and she's making him drink carrot juice. And that turns up in this thing as well.
What?
Yeah.
That makes me like her even less.
It's just, yeah.
Let me say this, and then I'll leave the poor character alone. I did do a poll on Twitter. And for anyone listening, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can find us at Discussing Who. And I asked the question, which companion of the Seventh Doctor do you prefer, Ace or Mel? 90% of all responses said Ace.
Yes. Yes. So there were some votes for Mel in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, believe it or not. And I would say that since I only put this up very short length of time because I wanted to have it in time for us to record tonight, right, there was only one vote. So I had 10 votes that 10 people voted. So there was only one. Yeah. 9-1. So I want to stress that she didn't have 100 votes or 1,000. She had one.
Yeah. but still.
But still.
9 for Ace.
Let's talk real quick about the Lacertians. And what did you guys think of the visual look of these aliens called the Lacertians? And Clarence, what were your thoughts of them as a whole, as their look and as the characters?
I think the look felt very believable, if you can say that from an alien on a weird planet. I liked it though. I didn't think it was too goofy as compared to some things we may have seen in the recent seasons. But I liked it. I liked that it was colorful. I was wondering about the name Lacertians. Were the Lakers popular around this time? I don't know. But yeah, I quite liked the look. As far as their personalities, they felt very human. I don't think there was anything about them that really separated them distinctly as a different, species of beings other than the look. But yeah, I think they were sufficient. And under the rule of the Rani, I guess you could say, in this episode or this series.
Not as big a fan. The scales on their skin it feels like a step in the right direction, but it's not a convincing effect, so I just didn't buy it. They did kind of make me think of the way Jack Kirby originally drew Triton of the Inhumans.
Oh yeah,
and so I thought, okay, cool, I'll buy that, because I never had any difficulty believing that Triton, was supposed to be in the water. He just kind of looked like he looked like he should. So that might have been interesting if there was some way to make these guys amphibian or something. But
yeah.
We do have to move on, and we don't have a lot of money here. We're going to spend all the money on the tetraps instead, which is very interesting to me. But
all right, so before we talk about them, and then I'll come back and let you mention them. Mm-hmm. I thought, and I think the gentleman's or the character's name was Icona. I thought that was a very interesting choice he made as an actor, or the direction that he was given when he and the Screeching Mimi were running.
The what?
Way, what's her face? Mel. When they were screeching, when they were running, he kept his arms straight.
Yeah, almost like the Naruto run a little bit.
Yeah.
Which, if you look it up, you should entertain yourself. Look up Naruto run. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to the Bat People. What did you think? And Lee, you just mentioned them. What did you think of the eyes around your head Bat People?
Yeah, it's another one of those times where we're being treated to a costume for a creature, and I always have mixed feelings about that. But points to them for having the idea that they've got eyes all around their head, and the interesting audio mixing of their voices, which were both masculine and feminine at the same time, and that's something I've always wanted to do with a character, and As sort of silly and unbelievable as they were in some ways, I did think that was really interesting. I liked the alarming design of their heads. That tongue thing is really upsetting. That's once you've seen it, you just can't unsee it, and it's Anyway,
so did I miss the tongue thing?
Yeah, the tetraps paralyzed two people. I guess it's Mel and the doctor, right?
I thought they were biting like a vampire.
No, they shot their tongues out like frogs, and they stuck to her neck. Yeah,
I totally missed that.
Yeah, well, good. That means you can sleep at night.
Yeah,
but anyway, but and again, points to Bonnie Langford. I'll give her this: is that she's supposed to turn stiff like a statue, and she does. And they pick her up, and she's got the physical control where she didn't break it. She looked like she's just turned to stone, and I thought that was good. So,
yeah, agreed. I will also add that I even noticed they did a lot of detail with that, because there are several times you see them from the back of their head, and the eye, at least on one of them, was moving a little bit as they were walking around. So I was like, okay, they did pay some serious detail here.
Yeah. It seemed to me that all of those eyes were moving independently of each other, which kind of randomly, but still.
All right, so let's talk for a minute, if you guys will, about the ultimate end game that the Rani was playing with, because I think this was just sort of like brushed over almost to the end about, and I'm still not quite understanding what it was that she was doing. Do either of you?
I think I have it. Now, I do think that the story would have been served better if they would have trickled out some of these things throughout the 4-episode arc instead of for 2/3 of the entire story just saying, "Oh, there's something behind that door."
Yes.
Yeah.
Know what it is.
And that asteroid would kill us all.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah, and then we get it all as an info dump. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
One thing that I want to mention before we move on, in episode 3, there is a scene where they go into something called the Center of Leisure, and all these people looked drugged out, and there's like these little bitty rooms, and they're walking around them, and I'm thinking, are you trying to do a very PC version of a...
It's the 80s, man.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It was like, what are you trying to say without saying here?
I like that. I thought it was interesting. Probably one of the most interesting things in the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're just like lounging out, chilling, not a care in the world. They're not going to care. Don't ask me anything. They may not tell you anything. You know, they're kind of just drugged out, I would assume, but they didn't say that, but, you know.
Yeah.
No, but it was strongly... Well, one of the things that got brought up earlier was that the climate on the planet is so pleasant that the Lacertians don't want to do anything.
Oh, okay.
Or that was something that the Rani said, she said that the doctor was the one who'd said it. Don't know if that's true or not, but I don't know. It's a yeah. So they don't care that the Rani has had this hornet's nest installed over their heads in the so they are. It's an opium den. I mean, they just do not care. Yeah, I'm really kind of not sure what that was supposed to be about, but
beware of the disco ball.
Right. Yeah. Which is always good advice.
You know, whenever I first saw the disco ball, before I knew what it was, I was thinking, is this one of the spheres that Missy had in the 8th series at the end of it? And I was thinking, is that what that is?
Yeah, you got me. I that would have to be coincidence, I think.
Yeah.
I doubt anybody's trying to connect things to time in the Rani here, but...
Well, that's true, too.
But no, ultimately, Clarence, you said you think you've got this. So maybe we can check each other on this, but I think the idea was that if she got her pet brain sufficiently full of genius information, so she needed another Time Lord, and she's got Einstein in there and several other famous geniuses, that then this asteroid will strike the planet, and the resulting explosion will surround the atmosphere with chronons, and the brain will grow to cover the entire planet. And then we'll have this single intelligence surrounded by particles of time itself. And from there, somehow, or at least she thinks, she's going to be able to rewrite history, that she will have complete and total control of time itself. Is that how you understood that, or
the only part of that go ahead?
It's mostly double talk, but of course, but
Yeah, the only part I didn't get of that was the brain growing. Yeah, I got that she was acquiring all these intelligent minds for this mother brain.
Right.
All humans, mind you, which I'm sure we're not the smartest race in the universe. One Time Lord and a bunch of humans.
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Be that as it may. In order to figure out this basic or this composite of material, which I think they said was helium-2, that was needed in order to start the chain of events you just mentioned.
Right.
In order to change creation or any point in time that she wanted to manipulate creation, I guess. Yeah, so very confusing. Very confusing.
Yeah. but once I watched this 3 times over the course of last week, so I feel that if there's a badge that you should get for, taking one for the team in
You
the
took
Doctor
one,
universe. Yeah. I feel like I watched Time of the Rani 3 times trying to prepare for this guy.
All right. So because
I didn't always pay good attention to it, I'll
because
be honest.
you did that, you get to pick our next story.
Excellent. Okay. So, but one of the things I got from that I really appreciated was that once I understood what her crazy plan is, I really came to admire that. I thought this makes me think of Thanos and this whole notion that the universe is overpopulated. So let's just get rid of half of it. That there's a part of you that wants to say, well, he's not wrong about that.
Yeah,
I just really don't like the way he's going about it. But okay, I kind of, So here's the same thing. She says creation is chaotic. I'm going to go back, like on this planet Earth that you like so much. When, as Clarence is right, apparently she really likes it too. She says, I'm going to start that whole planet's evolution over again, and we're going to do it my way this time. And, there's a part of you that kind of goes, that's actually a good plan. I mean, I'm not saying that's a good idea. I'm just saying I see what she's doing, that she's figured out there's a lot of things about the universe that nobody likes. Well, I'm going to be the one who's actually going to do something about them.
Well, wouldn't that be a paradox in a sense if she goes back and changes the creation of Earth, which she went and got all the intelligent people from? Therefore, she wouldn't have been able to do it in the first place.
Paradox engine.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a problem. I mean, just once I caught the little thing about how the brain was going to grow until it was, engulfed the whole planet, I thought, at this point, you think the brain is going to do what you say?
It's very, very Metroid, mother brain.
Right.
Real quick, Kyle, before you go. I love the fact once they introduced the Doctor into the mix, he just makes everything go haywire. That was really fun because, I guess they were all harmonious and everything until they put his crazy brain into the mix. And then she said it was it was schizophrenic is I think the word she used. And of course we got a short example of that as they kind of chatted back and forth. I thought that was fun. I really loved that.
So permission to hurt your brains.
Oh dear.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Since you were so sure about that, there is a scene in the first episode of this where the Doctor's memory is temporarily, quote unquote, erased. I find that interesting considering things that we have recently seen. Mm-hmm. Remember that was how the Rani gave the Doctor this temporary amnesia because initially he recognized her when he first woke up, and then she drugged or she gave him whatever she gave him, and then dressed up as male, etc., and so forth. So if you look at what the Rani does, the Rani has experimented on people for the first and second time and only times that we see her in canon. So if this comes to pass, I'm saying it here, what if, just like the Doctor has things that have been erased from his memory, what if the Rani is actually Tecteum?
That's interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. Go write a book.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. Would she keep killing over and over again? Well, but maybe she doesn't remember.
Maybe she doesn't remember herself.
Yeah. Okay.
Or himself, or however selves that he or she has been.
Well, Clarence, what do you say?
I said that would be an interesting twist for next season.
That'd be a twist. Yeah. It's going to turn out to be the Rani.
I'm just, weirder things have happened.
Indeed. Well, since you brought it up, I'm still waiting for somebody who is a more informed and nuanced Who historian than I am to answer this, because Clarence, Kyle and I were trying to figure this out this week. The Doctor expressly refers to himself as this being his seventh persona. And I'm trying to remember if that has ever happened elsewhere in the history of classic Who, if the Doctor has ever acknowledged his number before. But he does. In any case, in this episode, he says this doesn't bode well for my seventh persona. He also says that he is 953 years old. And I think that a lot of people have written over the years about trying to figure out the chronology of the Doctor's life, because by the time we reboot the series with Christopher Eccleston, he'll say that he's 900 years old. So, but a lot of people lie about their age.
You can blame it on the amnesia, I guess.
We can blame it on that amnesia. And I can't find the quote now, but at some point, the third Doctor said that he's been around for thousands of years. And I think that part of the debate about that has been maybe what he means is he has traveled through thousands of years of history.
Or maybe he was just telling the truth.
Or maybe he is 1,000 years old.
Oh, quit breaking my brain, guys.
So,
in lieu of what we know now.
Right, yeah.
Right.
But this is very much like playing the Sherlock Holmes game of trying to make Watson's narrative make sense when we know that the reason why there are these inconsistencies is because Conan Doyle just wasn't paying attention to details sometimes, So that's the real reason. But let's try to figure out what if Watson's a reliable narrator? What could that mean? So we got the same thing going here. I know the reason why he's 953 here and 900 later. Is just because nobody was paying attention to that, I don't think. But isn't it interesting? And the Doctor says that he and Rani are the same age, that they're both 953.
And that also adds credence maybe to what I was saying about who the Rani might be. And I'm going to give Mr. Chibnall a positive note here. Maybe he's a lot more brilliant than we are giving him credit for.
You mean you?
Okay, me.
You are, yeah.
Hey, I thought we were all in this together.
Well, I'm disappointed by a lot of things about Chibnall's writing, but I think in terms of ideas, of concepts, then I think that a lot of the things that he's put forward have been terrific. Have just been really exciting and interesting. So an idea like, I don't know who Tecteum was. She'd have to be a lot older than that, though.
Right, but she just doesn't remember.
She doesn't remember, I see. Okay.
But what I do remember is I need to ask you guys, are there any other quotes or scenes or notes that you guys have that you wanted to talk about before we do our final rating?
I usually like to have a favorite quote that I've picked out, and I am embarrassed to say that I just really don't. Nothing jumped out here at me, and you might remind me of something later, and I would say, oh, well, of course, that,
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Wow. I really have to tell you, and Lee, of course, there's one quote that Lee, you should be all over, actually. When the Doctor is talking to Einstein as they're walking, or they're
yes.
Yes.
And Einstein is playing with the controls, and he tells him to go to the next room, and he tells him, "I'll explain how it works later." It's all
relative. Yes, he did.
Yeah. So I thought you guys would be all on it.
That's right. And I did let it go.
Well, I like it. I like it a lot, and I say that just because you said that, that's going to be my favorite quote.
Okay, we'll go for that.
Okay.
It is fun to enjoy all of the Doctor's sort of malapropisms in this. He has all these kind of classic idioms that we all know, but he finishes them wrong. Time and tide what melts the snowman. It's supposed to be time and tide waits for no man, but he remembers it as melts the snowman. I can't even say it. So all of those are fun. And he actually mentions Mrs. Malaprop, from whom we get that name, which is funny when they're talking about characters who, if the human race is wiped out, then none of those people will exist. And in quick succession, they mention a bunch of famous people, real people. But Mrs. Malaprop is a fictitious character. She's a character in a play. So I think that was Pip and Jane kind of winking at us that this script is actually full of malapropisms, because she talks like that all the time. That's why we call them that, Mrs. Malaprop. Anyway, so I enjoyed those things, and getting to see Sylvester play the spoons. I have to wonder if that wasn't in his contract or something. Do I get to play the spoons?
That was awesome.
Yes, you can play the spoon.
And that makes me understand or remember ultimately understand why the 12th Doctor did it.
That's right. Sylvester is the actor from this series, from Classic Who, that I've actually spent the most time with. I have been to 3 different conventions and have actually kind of got to hang around with him and just talk sometimes. So, and I was actually with a group of people where he was playing the spoon throw them, and he does the thing where he goes around hitting people on the head with them, and he hit me on the shoulder with his spoon. So yeah, so I've been one note in his, and we also got to talk a little bit about that Antarctic film that I was telling you about. So I've got inside dope about that from Sylvester. Anyway.
Well, I have, and I'm going to pose this to someone who I know listens to our episodes. I would be curious to know and hear about how the British audience received this episode. Specifically, did they know that the Doctor had been cast in advance? And did Sylvester McCoy get any negative pushback initially if the fans were watching and then all of a sudden you're expecting to see Colin Baker and here's this other Doctor? No matter how great he may have been, did he get any initial feedback or pushback from that? So Dave Cooper, if you are listening, and I'm 99.99999% sure that you are, I'm curious to know, did you experience yourself or know of any negative pushback that Sylvester got when he first took over the role?
Real quick, I just want to mention 3 things real quick that we didn't talk about. I actually loved how Kate O'Mara dressed up as Mel. I thought because of their similar body types, it worked. She didn't look exactly like her, but I thought it was convincing enough for a doctor with amnesia to be confused,
That's right. It fooled the Tetrap, too. They shot her.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed that. I thought that was pretty interesting. Also, 2 things that I can't forgive, I guess. One is when the doctor puts some rope or something around the Rani. He ties her up, but then he just runs off, and he had her tied up. Why did he run off? It just didn't make any sense to me. And the last little gripe I have is when they entrap the Rani in one of those chambers that they were using for the super smart people. Yeah. She has this thing on her wrist, which can do a lot of things now. It can send those bugs to kill the Lacritia people. Uh-huh. It can launch a rocket, but it couldn't get her out of chamber.
Yeah, you mean her old school Apple Watch?
Yeah.
Apple Watch 1.0.
Yeah.
I'm done.
All right, cool. Good points, because I totally intended to mention the thing on her arm and I forgot. Yeah. So I'll point it back at you, Mr. Brown. Your rating, what say ye?
1 rocket fired at an asteroid out of 1. I don't know. That's all I got. Just 1, man.
All right.
I didn't like it at all.
All right, Lee, what say ye?
I'm going to give it 2 Mel Bushes screeching in a bubble.
Okay. And won't they cancel each other out?
Right. If only.
All right. Well, believe it or not, I am going to give this a 5. I'm going to give it 5.
What?
Yes.
Out of how many?
Wait. Bear with me. I'm going to give it a 5 that will be ultimately destroyed, 4 of, by the screeching sound of screaming, Melanie. Mm. And after that, I will be left with 1, and because that's all I can give it. Because literally, it sounded like nails on a chalkboard. It grated. So I even put my hearing aids in and had to take the things out because it was giving me feedback. So 1.
They really missed the opportunity by having her scream to get out of the bubble trap, which almost killed her. The scream would have that would have made more sense.
I think, yeah.
So one last thing, and I said I was going to leave her alone. This is the only time that I was ever like, yes, oh, she's going to get killed. But she didn't.
Kyle, how dare you? I don't even know you right now.
Yeah.
You'll remember who I am by next week. So, but I will be nice enough, since even though you don't know who I am, I do know who you are. And I'm going to say, where else can you be found, my friend? who you do not know on the internet?
Check out the Tech Petition podcast, which can be found at techpetition.com, where we've recently rebooted our beloved podcast. And a lot of good stuff in the recent episode, but we talk about etiquette for video conferencing a little bit in that episode. So definitely check it out. A lot of fun. That's techpetition.com.
Oh, cool. I want to listen to that, even though you don't know who I am. But I think the other person on this podcast hasn't temporarily abandoned me yet, even though, screeching Mimi should have ballooned or whatever. Mr. Lee Shackelford, what say you?
I'm trying to figure out how to close caption you here because I've lost my hearing and I can't follow along.
Oh, that was good.
relativitypodcast.com. We're still on hiatus, but check out what's going on there at relativitypodcast.com. And as I mentioned last week, I also want to point people towards a very unique podcast audio drama, and you'll find it at correctionssurvival.com. It's called Corrections Survival of the Fittest, story written and performed by inmates in a maximum security penitentiary, and they're better actors than you would expect. So that's for me. How about you?
All right. For me, I will point everyone this time to Discussing Comics. I had an very interesting conversation, a very enjoyable conversation with a gentleman by the name of Ashford Wright. I have recently been a guest on his Straight Out of Gallifrey Doctor Who podcast, and he came on Discussing Comics to talk about the Birds of Prey comic book series, as well as the character, the Huntress, and both versions of the character, the Huntress. So awesome conversation. So discussingcomics.com. And I will also throw in, since we are still living in the age of coronavirus as we're recording this, it's very important that we all remember to wash our hands. So check out Listen, Rinse, Repeat, which will give you snippet episodes about a minute long or a little under that you can listen to while washing your hands. Listen, rinse, and repeat.
Yes. And the website there is listenrinserepeatpodcast.com.
Cool beans. So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Mr. Shackelford, Mr. Clarence Brown, for also being with me as always. And with that, we will be back, minus the screeching, next time. You've been listening to the Discussing Network. Find out more at discussingnetwork.com.